Okay, I am going to call this special meeting of the Board of Education to order. If everyone would please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and I would ask the secretary call the roll.
Christopher Abel,
Here.
Viv Hansen,
Here.
Matthew Phipps,
Present.
Keith Shaw,
Here.
Matthew Spalding.
Here.
Gary Trask, Tony Vestelica. Thank you.
Okay, we'll launch straight into new business. The 2022-23 fiscal year audit report. But the title was long.
So I want to welcome Randy Miller here from Hawkins Ash CPAs. He's going to go over the report for us. So you can turn it over to him.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm a little hard of hearing, so I talk loud, and please talk loud back to me so I can hear you. So first off, you have three documents attached to your agenda. The 2023 financial statements, that is the main document. The 2023 board presentation is an outline I will go over with you, which is very summary. And then the 2023, it's those charged with governance and management advisory comments is a letter that is part of an audit that I will not go over in detail with you. But I also gave you my profile, which has on there my email and my direct dial at work. And a lot of times people, I am the engagement partner, so I have the overall responsibility for this audit. I partner 19 public school districts in the state of Wisconsin. We do another 19 or so out of our lacrosse office. But if you have any specific questions that are of a detailed nature, or that you would like to do it confidentially, that is the way to do it. And I would be glad to discuss the audit with you. So that's my bio. I talked about the three handouts. So then we're just going to go, this is the main document. So if we could, it's up on screen there. So a couple things. So first of all, page 3 to 5 is just the independent auditor's report. 6 to 14, the management discussion and analysis, or MD&A. That is just extra information that discusses the stuff on the next pages. So I won't be talking about that. But then if you go from page 15 all the way down to page 56, just kind of scroll down there. I'm not going to, that is, I'm sorry, in the table of contents, I'm sorry. Okay. So from 15 to page 56, 56, that whole section there, that is your financial audit, okay? Then if you go from page, in the table of contents, from 57 down to 69, those are your two compliance audits. And I'll go over that in a little more detail when I get to the outline. But that is just important to note, because we don't do one audit for you, we do 3 audits, and I'll explain that a little further here. So 2 other documents that I did not include in here that we also do as part of an audit. There's a document called a 1506 filing, or your aid certification. The district files a 1505, and then we do a 1506. So I think, so your total revenue is about 82 million, and your state general aid is roughly about over $40 million. So it's roughly 50% of your total revenue. And what makes up that number is 3 pieces: aidable cost plus equalized property value plus pupil count. And in terms of getting that all, this is all by the state aid formula, this is all law. So the pupil count, there's a separate audit that gets done of the pupil count, and that's called an membership audit or an agreed upon procedure. That is done every April, and it's due May 1st. That is done on a cycle basis dictated by the DPI. Manitowoc Public School District did not have one of those this year. Equalized property value is certified by the state of Wisconsin. Again, that's an appraiser's job, an assessor's job. That isn't done by an audit firm. But then that aidable cost, so that certification, the 1506 filing, that is something we do, and that's a big component of your general aid. And just, again, I didn't give you the document, but just to read you the opinion, in our opinion, the aid certification data of the district is presented in accordance with the reporting requirements established by the DPI in all material respects. So again, on your 1506 filing, the district got the clean report, which is what you want. So then one other thing, any entity, I should take it, not a for-profit, but any not-for-profit or governmental entity that gets more than $750,000 of federal aid needs to have an additional audit called a uniform guidance single audit. And so we did one for you, and the form for that is called a data collection form, and it's filed with the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. So at the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, you could go out to their website, Google it up, and you could do a search for any governmental or not-for-profit entity. So if you ever want to see somebody's audit that gets federal funding, you can go out there, like you could put in Manitowoc Public Schools. It would have all the history of all your audits. And not only does it have the data collection form, it has these other documents out there as a PDF out there. And if you want to look at anybody else that you could think of, sometimes people like to look at other school district audits. That is a resource and an easy way to do that. So what is the single audit? Well, it's basically compliance audit on your federal funding. And the way it works is like every year, different major programs are selected. So this past year, your major programs were Title I, Education Stabilization Funds, and Medicaid. So what we do on those three programs only, we really do a deep dive. I audit the heck out of them. We do a bunch of testing, internal control, compliance, and so on and so forth. And again, you passed all that with flying colors. But I just wanted to point that out there that we're not doing just the one audit, we're doing the three audits. So I just wanted to mention those other documents are out there that I didn't provide, but they are available. So then if we go back to okay, you're at there. So I'm gonna go, the rest of this is I'm just gonna go through this outline. I am gonna refer to places in the main document. So if you do have the main document handy, you might want to have the hard copy, and then you can just kind of look at the pages if you wish. So the first thing is the independent auditor's report on pages 3 to 5. And I know that's pretty lengthy, but to sum it up, what it essentially is saying is who's responsible for what. So management is responsible for the fair presentation of the financial statements. That's not on the auditor, that's on management. The auditor's responsibility is to give an opinion on those financial statements. So if you just if you're on page 3, that second paragraph, I'm just going to read it. So I know it reads kind of like accountants, but in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information for Manitowoc Public School District as of June 30th, 2023, your balance sheet, and the respective changes in financial position for the year then ended, your income statements, in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That is, so again, management's responsible, we express an opinion, and we issued an unmodified audit opinion, and that's the one you want. That's the old, the clean opinion, you might have heard it referred to. That's the good opinion. So on pages 60 to 69, and you don't have to go there, I would just probably stay on on this, but if they wish to. So that's where the other two audits are reported on. And those audits are the UG single audit I just talked about for the federal funding. And the other one is a little more broad. It's under government auditing standards. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Yellow Book. That's government auditing standards. So it can apply to almost all governments and some not-for-profits. But it basically is, in addition to doing the regular financial auditing, we look at laws, regulations, contracts, and grants relative to that entity. So we do that as well. And so for those two audits, the Yellow Book audit and the UG single audit, you receive the standard report, i.e. the good report, okay? So far you're batting 3 for 3 on 3 audits, 3 good reports. And I know it's really hard to kind of glean all that from that, but that's what it says. So we reported 3 audit findings. Now, the first thing I will say is audit findings are normal, okay? I audit 19 public school districts, and guess what? 19 of them have audit findings. So don't look at an audit finding as a negative thing. These are very commonplace. And I would say it this way, these are standard findings for a district of this size. So and I'm not going to go into the details. You can read the detail at 66, 67. If you want more information, you can contact me after. but they are preparation of financial material audit adjustments, and the District 8 certification was filed late. Now, I do want to talk about that. I don't know to what extent you have knowledge, but the DPI changed their software this past year. And for every public school district, in terms of how school districts provide their data to to DPI. It is very good software. I would call it slick. However, there was a learning curve to get there. And we just had our training for our 2024 audits, where the DPI does some training for our staff. And they said there are still 10 to 15 public school districts in the state of Wisconsin as of last week that their audits aren't done yet. Now, I can tell you all of the Hawkins Ash audits are done, so for what that's worth. But that is just, that's kind of and then not only that, but there was some software changes internally as well. But the delay was caused by the DPI software change. So then adjusting journal entries. So basically what these are is we take your beginning trial balance, your general ledger beginning trial balance, and then, what does it take to get down to final numbers? And so this year we had 23, and it's very normal for when we do because we get the trial balance early on in the process, and all of a sudden the client will come in by us and say, oh, I got this other journal entry I forgot to give you. So those are not audit adjustments, those are client adjustments. So this year we had 13 client adjustments, and we had 10 Hawkins Ash adjustments. Last year, for comparison, that number was 17. Again, I would say this is very typical for a district the size of Manitowoc Public Schools, that there is just a need for the auditor to assist in closing the book, not closing the books, but to adjusting the books to the final number, so that then that final trial balance then is what's driven into all these reports, every report I referred to previously. And the biggest thing, I guess, of importance is in that final 8 certification. That's the important thing. So that's all there. So the third document I'm giving you, that again is just, you can look at it later. So there's 2 parts of that. There is one letter that's called those charged with governance. And I forgot to mention this. So if you look at all of our reports, they're all addressed to the school board. They're not addressed to Rob. They're not addressed to Angela. They're not addressed to the superintendent. So auditors need to address their reports to those charged with governance. That's the buzzwords. In a publicly traded company, they could have such a big entity that the board of directors would have an audit committee. Then the audit committee would be those charged with governance. If you got a teeny tiny little owner operated company, then the owner would be those charged with governance. I will tell you, in all Wisconsin public school districts, those charged with governance is the school board, with maybe Milwaukee or Green Bay or Racine or some of those districts, they might have an audit committee. But the vast majority do not have they might have a finance committee, but it's really the Board of Education that has the overall responsibility. Therefore, that's who everything's addressed to. So just information on that. So that letter, those charged with governance, is just general information about the audit. And it's just a standard report. If there was any issues that occurred during the audit, there would be comments in there. There were none of those. And so it's just a standard report. And the second letter, this is it's not authoritative. In other words, it's not in the auditing standards. So we do not have to put into writing management advisory comments. It's Hawkins Ash and other firms, but I know we do as part of our business practice. So if we come across things that are below the level of an audit finding, like those items up above, but we want to communicate them to the client, we could simply tell the board or tell Angela or tell somebody at the district. We don't our internal policy is to put that in writing. Then it's here, and then it can be hopefully addressed and fixed as we go forward. And those 3 items are listed there, and you can look at the report for the details of it. And they are reconciling cash, timeliness of requests, and original and final budgeted amounts. And again, that timeliness thing, that again has to do with that item discussed earlier about the software, okay? So that one audit finding and that one MAC, I fully believe that will be gone next year. So then there's 2 appendixes to the communications letter, and one is the 23 adjusting journal entries I talked about above. So it's just a hard copy of, so if you're a bean counter, want to look at journal entries, they're all there for you to look at. Each account by account goes on for pages. And then Appendix B, so what a management representation letter is the auditee attesting to the auditor what all, all these different representations in the audit. And you can read that letter. It's like 4 or 5 pages long. And it's a little lengthier because you do get a single audit. So there's a lot of stuff about your federal programs. And then it's generally signed by, in this case, the business manager and the accountant. So Angela and Rob signed that letter. And a copy of that is included with that. So then if we go on to page 2, so now all these items I didn't put it on my thing, and I apologize for that. So I'm gonna give you a reference to the main document. So if you wanna go back and look at it, you can. So item 4, statement of net position, you can find this information at pages 15, 16, 17, and 19. 15, 16, 17, and 19. And what this is this is the entity-wide data. This is not your fund data. So this is something, 10-year, 15-year new. They never used to have this in governmental accounting. Now they do. And if you notice, we show 3 years of analysis, and all 3 years are audited. But one thing to point out, if you look at the net change there, a negative 4.9 million, oh man, that looks bad. Well, it's not. There's 3 things in there. There's 3.6 million of Wisconsin retirement system and OPEB. It's an accounting adjustment. It's not a real true expense. The other thing that is in there, and I think it was probably from a year ago, but we recorded it in 23, was the disposition of was it the McKinley building? And that, because of its carrying value on the depreciation schedule and what it actually sold for, there was actually a financial $1 million loss, a paper loss, if you will. And then there's also depreciation in that number of 3.1 million. So if you add all that back, that number gets to be very positive. So just, again, you got to kind of look at the numbers as to why they are what they are. So net position, that is basically your equity. Assets minus liabilities equal equity, but the term they use is net position. So I think a lot of net investment in capital assets and special revenue, debt service, and capital projects, self-explanatory. The restricted other, and every year there's 5.0 million for self-insurance. Okay, you're a self-funded, so we have that number in there. And then this is kind of hard to explain, but so for Wisconsin retirement system and for OPEBs, okay, every year we get actuarial information and we have to record this stuff, and you can have assets, liabilities, and it goes up and down. Anyway, last year in that 22,291, there was 17,212 from Wisconsin retirement system. This year the number is 0. And again, that goes up and down as the investments at Wisconsin retirement system, they had I think, because we're actually going a year back. So that year, the last year, it was a low market year. And the year it went way up, that was a high market year. Now, I'm going to guess going into next year, it's probably going to go up. Can't guarantee that, but I would assume that'd be the case. But enough said there. So then on the bottom of the page, this is all the fund information. You find this on pages, this is general fund, pages 17, 18, 19. Pages 17, 18, and 19. So on its face, if you look there, net change 53 minus the 53,000. Oh man, the general fund lost money. Well, no, it didn't. You transferred 1.4 million to the capital improvement fund, and if you had that back, you're actually at a 1.3 positive position. So it's all about knowing the details. So just understand that is there, and then fund balance. So again, the restricted is same as up above, the 5,141,000, the big number in there, 5.0 million for self-insurance. And then the assigned 8.2 million. So that's basically for specific expenses and payroll. Basically, it's assigned for the next year's expenses. And then the unassigned, is a very technical accounting term for that. It's called a plug, okay? In other words, you take assets minus liabilities, you come up with your total, you come up with all those other numbers, and the remainder has to be unassigned. But there is one thing to look at unassigned as a percentage of expenditures. And this is kind of an important thing in governmental. You have a pretty strong fund balance. So like 8%, 7%, 13%, unassigned as a percent of expenditures, that's a good thing. Okay, a lot of districts that number can be, and even other governments that can be way below 5% sometimes. So that's a good number. So then the next 2 pages, all I'm going to say about pages 3 and 4 So that, all this information, this is all the other fund information, the non-general fund stuff, okay? Very little of it. And it's basically detailed on pages 54 and 55. I'm not going to point out anything except on the very bottom of page 3, right there where you are, long-term capital improvement fund. There's the 1.4 million going into the capital improvement fund, other financing sources, 1.4. And then if you notice now, your long-term capital improvement fund balance is now up to 2.374. So that number's gone up, and that could be used for future capital expenditures. So that's pages 3 and 4. And I don't know if we got to turn the slides sideways or what we're going to do here, but, oh no, it is that. Wow, it does. Okay, look at that. All right. So this is some, if you like graphs and charts, here's some graphs and charts for you. 10-year analysis, we've been the auditor this entire time, so this is all audited data. And basically you kind of look, now, geez, revenue expenditures are pretty close to each other. Now, this is all governmental funds. That would be normal for a school district, right? Because you're trying to, revenues equal expenditures. You know, there can be peaks and valleys because you could have something come in as revenue and you don't expend it to the next year, so it might go up and down. But over time, it should be pretty even. And so 60 million back in 2014. So this is all on page 18, by the way. So page 18. The revenue total for this year, June 30th, 2023, rounded off to millions, 82 million. So that's you want to know, how big of a district are we? Well, we're an $82 million district. There you have it. And expenditures, 81 million, okay? And if you go down below on that end there, that again comes from page 18, and the net number was 830,955. 830,955 was the net positive change in fund balance for the year ended June 30th for all governmental fund types. And that's all you have is governmental fund types. You don't have, if you're familiar with cities and stuff, you have proprietary funds and other funds, but that's not the case in a school district. So then the next slide, next page. So this is a pretty important slide, I think, your fund balance, right? So if you go all the way over to 2023 over there, that totals to $23.7 million. And if you look at the color codes, so the green is restricted. The dark blue is assigned, and then the lighter blue is unassigned. And those total 9.1, 8.2, and 6.4. So that 9.1, again, I've mentioned some of this, but I'll just repeat it here. It's made up of 4 numbers. $5 million for self-insurance, donor restrictions, you have some donated money, 600,000. The food service fund has fund balance of 1.1 million. And then the capital improvement fund, what I just talked about, has 2.4 million. And that adds up to 9.1, and that is restricted for specific purposes. Then at 8.2, that is assigned specifically for basically next year's expenditures is the way we say that. And then the 6.4, again, using my accounting term plug, that is your unassigned. So that is so if you ever want to know, what's my fund balance? Right there it is. So on the bottom of the page there, so general fund, and by the way, for financial reporting purposes, your general fund, if you're into the numbers, fund 10, does include your special education fund, which is fund 27. And fund 27 always essentially breaks out to zero. So the revenue is always equal to the expenditures. But so we have to report, and this is on pages 46 and 47. Pages 46 and 47, it shows all the detail on the variances. So if you do want to get into an analysis of budget versus actual, you could go to there and you could look at that. But if we go to the variance column and you see there minus 611 plus 1.6 minus 1.049, it's like, oh man, if I add that all up, I got a negative number. And that wouldn't be good. Well, again, that 1.4 million got transferred to the capital improvement fund. That was not budgeted for. So if I back that out of there, I end up with very favorable overall budget variances. So just to note that. And then the last item I want to talk about is long-term obligations. So in your financial statements, there's a lengthy footnote on page 28. You can look at that at a later date, but page 28 of the financial statements. And again, we do a 10-year analysis here, but for June 30th of 2023, that number totaled 19.2 million. And what is it made up of? $100,000 is subittas, which are basically software agreements, and sick pay. So it's a very small number. The Wisconsin retirement system, 13.7 million. And again, that's just an accounting number. And then the OPEBs, 5.4 million. So that total number of 19.2, those are just accounting numbers. Now you have to record them as part of your debt, but they're not real debt in the sense that you got to pay them off next year. And they will go up or down depending on, in all these cases, they're actuarially computed depending on, in the one case, what's going on at WRS, and the OPEBs are your internal programs for your, and OPEB stands for other post-employment benefits. And there's several types of benefits you have there. So the one big note I had here, so at June 30th, 2023, the district had 0 notes/bonds payable, 0. That's unheard of. I mean, that's impressive. That's, and I am a resident of Manitowoc, which is unlike my other 18 public schools I audit. And I was trying to figure out why that is. And I do know that Manitowoc has older buildings, and maybe some of these other districts that have significant debt, they finance some newer buildings and things like that. But I also think that part of that is just being, tight with the budget and frugal and not willing to borrow for certain things. So also in that footnote, there is a statute that is disclosed that you may, as a Wisconsin public school district, up to 10% of your equalized value. And what do you suppose you can borrow up to? $333 million, which is 10% of your equalized value. 333 million. So if you got a new school, I'm just kidding, no. But again, there's a lot of other reasons why you borrow, and the auditors don't get involved with that. You hire your bond counsel, and they go and give you all kinds of options in terms of how you go about doing that and different ways to do it. But just understand that it's pretty unusual for most school districts, especially the size of Manitowoc, that you don't have any debt. So I'd point that out. Just I don't know if you were all aware of that, but I mean, that's impressive from an auditor perspective. And it does give you the ability to borrow going into the future if you have that need. So that's all I had, and I don't know how I did on time, probably longer than I should have, but apologize for that. But I would open it up to questions, and I would also offer the offline questions if you want to contact me confidentially as well.
Thank you for a nice report.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Right. And I will say thank you to these two people sitting to they do all when in a modern day audit, the audit team requests are significant. And so that it takes, we have a PBC list, I don't know, it's pages long. PBC, I'm sorry, stands for prepared by client. And that is just a part of an audit that needs to occur to get everything done. And in a public school district, it's a very complex entity, and it does take a lot of doing. So, well, I will let you get on with your meeting. And again, feel free to contact me offline, and on there is my direct dial. So if I don't answer it, you can just leave me a voicemail or send me an email, and then I'll be glad to get back to you. Normally try to get back within 24 hours. If you could leave me some kind of detail as to what it's regard to, I could open up the audit file.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion to approve this?
Yeah, I was about to ask.
It's just information, so that's where.
Okay.
Sometimes boards do take an action to approve the audit. They don't have to.
Or place on file or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll leave that up.
I make a motion that we approve the auditor's report.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve. We have a second. Any other further discussion?
Just want to say thank you very much and understanding how passionate you are about this and your pursuit to excellence. So you're passionate about this and your excellence to pursue.
Oh, thank you.
I can tell completely.
Yeah, no, I love my job, yeah. I've only been doing it for 42 years.
Randy shared once that your very first audit from.
I wasn't gonna say that, but no, I will say it.
Yeah, you should.
So I've actually worked for Hawkins for 42 years, and Manitowoc Public Schools was an audit client at that time. And we didn't have as many public school audits. And I actually have been on the audit ever since. And so I have worked with Dale Brasser and Ken Mishler and many, many others. And so I was hired in September, and it was kind of getting toward the end of school season, but Manitowoc Schools was still not wrapped up. And the old administrative building over by the old Jefferson School was a white administrative building on the corner there. And I went there with two other people, and I had no idea what I was doing. And Dale Brasser, I believe, was the finance director. And the guy said, stay in here, don't talk to anybody, don't say a word. I did what I was told. And then over the years, I eventually worked my way up, and I actually served as in charge and manager on the job. And then for many, many years now, I've actually been a partner for almost 30 years, and I've been the engagement partner on this one that whole time. And I guess if we're fully disclosing, Rob worked underneath me for 10 years, and Angela still owes me a case of beer for hiring Rob away from me, but Rob did all public school and municipal auditing. You did, yeah, pretty much all you did with us. And because Hawkins Ash has a big government, and all I do, I have government, schools and munis, not-for-profits, and some employee benefit plan, but that's all I do is 100% auditing, which we have critical mass that we're able to do that.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
fine work.
Yes, all right, very good, thank you, all right.
We had a motion.
Motion and second.
Thanks.
We didn't
He
vote on it.
seconded it, it wasn't voted on.
Yeah, I'm just making, I want to find out if it's approved or accept. It's accept.
Motion to accept.
Yeah, motion.
Okay, so a motion and a second to accept. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, I didn't think that would happen, so that is accepted. Thank you. Okay, so now we move on to items brought forward from the May 20th Finance and Facilities meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll start and then you can jump in, Angela. We had a financial committee meeting on that date, and everybody was in attendance. The meeting was held on May 20th at 5 o'clock. The first item on the agenda was to approve the contract, the transportation contract. Steve Recky from Brand Bus indicated that would be a 3.5% increase over the previous year because of cost of insurance, special education transportation, the costs have gone up. Increase in transportation time and mileage rate has increased. Extracurricular trips have increased. And he's happy to report that the routes will stay the same as they have been this year. So he anticipates no route changing, but it did include a 3.5%. This was approved by the committee unanimously, so it's brought to the board for just discussion and a vote. No seconds required.
I make a motion to approve the people transport contract for 2024 to 2029.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, in case anybody, I have just one quick comment. In case anybody is reading over the contract, I just like to remind people that Article 1A clearly points out that statutorily, to comply with state law, we must supply busing to both the public and the private schools within the MPSD attendance area. In case anybody's wondering why that's in there.
Right.
That's what state law says. Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
The other one is you're going to see is the student insurance policy. This also came out of committee. The student's insurance policy, Angela can speak to this a little bit more detail, but for the 24-25 school years, is an increase of $2,598. And that's basically due to a catastrophic insurance coverage, which we had not had in the past. Catastrophic insurance in case something major happens while a student is on the bus. Has not changed the contract with all the parents. However, the first insurance carrier in the district is the second. This was also approved by the board, brought by motion, so it comes to the board for discussion and vote. But Angela, do you have any other?
No, not specifically. Most of the information was included in the memo, so the catastrophic coverage brings the coverage on a parallel to what WIAA coverage offers. So that was one of the main reasons that we were encouraged to consider adding that, so.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. Thank you.
Second.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, that is approved. Next, it is the food service bid recommendation.
That again was brought out of committee to approve by the board, the Chartwell's extended contract for the next school year. There was some discussion between the district and or the district and DPI. So if you want to just briefly hit on that, and then we can go to the motion.
Yeah, yes. You know, through the RFP process is a pretty involved process with DPI. You have to have the bid documents approved through DPI, and we hold a pre-bid meeting, and potential bidders are required to be in attendance in order to be able to bid on the program. And what we had 3 vendors, Chartwell's, Taher, and Aramark bid, and they attended the meeting naturally. And when the conversation back and forth with DPI was more regarding like the efficiency of our program. So, you know, there were many discussions, and we had to do some follow-up with both the final bidding vendors, Chartwell's and Aramark. And, you know, just the main concern was as connected with how we're operating CEP. So we already have plans for how we're going to work to increase and drive participation, and some more of that information is in the CEP report next. But at the end of the day, they were looking at, you know, some of the bid information and saying, how come we're taking such a loss on our program, and we are cost reimbursable, and so that a lot of it boils down to just your participation. If you're not, you know, doing your grab and goes, I'm forgetting the second chance breakfast and some of those things, your net profitability, it goes down. So that's where we're just, we need to make sure we focus on that as a district and find ways that we can enhance and just more than the financial piece, expand the accessibility to the program to benefit students in learning. So, yeah, and we did not do a first and second in committee on this one,
Right.
so.
So this needs to come to approval, recommendations to stay with Chartwell's as our district's choice and as with DPI. So that did not come out of committee, needs a motion and a second.
Are you moving, or are you just asking for it?
I'm asking.
Okay,
I motion to accept the committee's recommendation for Chartwell.
okay. Motion to accept the recommendation of Chartwell's?
I'll second it, but I.
Discussion. Okay, sure. So,
So are we going to talk about breakfast in the next issue?
Yes, we can, yes,
Okay.
for sure.
If we would approve this contract, would that include if we went back to a breakfast program?
We are not, when you offer CEP, you are required to offer breakfast. The format with which the district offers that is what impacts the net gain loss, you know, in the program. So we are offering it, we are in compliance with that. So, but just where we were, you know, looking at this year, you know, close to a $200,000 loss for the program, one way to, you know, improve the sustainability of the program long-term is to offer second chance breakfast. You know, there are local and area school districts that are finding success with that.
We're gonna talk about it next, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm just trying to advocate for some representatives that contacted me. They said that there was morale issues, obviously, within the system, and there was stealing that was going on. So I'll be voting no for this just because of kind of information, wanting more information of what's going on internally. Obviously, the audits were done through the bidding process for the 3 different companies, but I was not happy with any answers that were given to me at this point. So I'm just advocating for the individuals that came together to represent their best interests that would work within the company. So I'll be voting no.
Any further? Okay, then I'm going to ask that all those in favor of the motion to approve the food service bid to Chartwell signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say nay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have that, and that was approved. We will move on now to the 2024-25 CEP.
This again was discussed in our committee. The CEP was approved by the board to maintain the 24-25 school district contract for the CEP. The breakfast program was not in discussion at that point because we didn't have a breakfast program. But in advocacy and conversation for adopting the breakfast program was also brought up. But this motion right now is to approve the CEP program that we currently have for the 24-25 school year. Again, that was brought out of committee. Just open for discussion and a vote for approving the CEP contract for the 24-25 school year.
Okay.
I'll be voting no as well, just because of, it's not a sustainable program at this point in time. I made my voice quite clear about it. We voted back in, the last time we voted on this, almost 6 months ago. So it's, we have a surplus right now, obviously, I think it was $1.some million in that account. And we are, I think we're using about 400,000 each year right now. And in a few years, it will be at zero. Obviously, if there's adjustments made to the program. However, I think education time is education time. I understand a good meal for everybody to be ready so they can have education, but I believe the classroom is made for education, not for meal time.
So looking for, before discussion, a motion?
Oh, I'll move to approve, but I've got discussion.
Okay, and I'll second so that we can get the discussion going, and then I'll surrender to Mr. Hanson.
So Angela, how, if I'm correct right now, we're losing money on breakfast?
Correct, and because our participation is low in that area, and, you know, we have, when you run the CEP program based on the percentage drives your profitability of that. You know, when we had much less of a loss when we were offering breakfast in the classroom. You know, we've still continued to offer breakfast as it's required, but it's just, you know, between transportation, accessibility, timing, it's a challenge for some families. And that's what the feedback has been. In some cases, based on needs, in some cases, sometimes food is still being brought to the classroom, even though we're not offering breakfast directly in the classroom. So I think that there's some opportunities to look at this as our district leadership team to see how we can expand and improve that. I did want to add some information about the ISP. In order to qualify for CEP, you used to have to be over 40%, and that's your direct certification. So that's the benefits that families qualify for through the state. So it's not the free and reduced applications or anything like that that drives that amount. In 22-23, we operated at 42.43%, and then we had a free rate reimbursement of 67.89%. When we pulled out of the program last year, when we had to recertify. So what always happens is you take your initial amount and then you hold that for 4 years, and you can increase it. But you don't, if it goes down, you don't have to go you don't have to take the lower amount. But because we pulled out of the program, then we had slightly less qualifying, so we went down a little bit in our claiming amount this year because we pulled out of the program. So our rate of reimbursement is 67.86 this year. For next year, recently they take you to do direct certification around April 1st. And it's not official, the amount that's the estimate that's in board book, but we're up to 48.91% estimated. So we believe there could be some give and take between 40, 45, 48% in there. What that means is that our free rate reimbursement is going to be up closer to 80%. 80% is the rate with which your program becomes self-sustainable moving forward. And even a district, I want to say Two Rivers has a slightly lower ISP, and they're offering grab and go breakfast, second chance breakfast, and they are operating in the black on that. So that's how much of an impact that the participation has. But what we're having is there is a greater need in our community, is what that ISP tells us, and with declining enrollment, that's why our free rate reimbursement is increasing. So the good news is where we were dealing with more of a loss, and we had $120,000 loss projected this year, it's coming out a little higher. We should have far less loss overall, if not in the black, depending upon how we operate and continue.
So very simply, right now, we're doing the CEP, but that does not include the breakfast program.
Well, CEP or breakfast program is part of CEP.
But we don't have the breakfast in the classroom grab and go.
Correct.
Okay. So, but right now, we do have, with this contract is for 24-25, renewing the CEP program. We want to add that grab and go. Is that part of it, and we're just going to enroll, or does it have to be a separate motion by the board?
It's not a separate enrollment. It's just if the board can direct us to look at that more as a leadership team, and we already have been having discussions about that independently, so.
I really do think that having the grab and go lunches, or breakfast, I'm sorry, is nice. I had it my freshman year, we had it in our T hallways at Lincoln. And like everybody we have win next, so you don't, when they handed out, it was RIP for win. So you wouldn't even be going to like a technical class after. You'd be going to like a club meeting or like work time, like a study hall. So it wasn't disrupting. I don't think food in the classroom is disruptive either way, but you also are getting so much more participation in the morning. Most kids are getting there right, like on time. I mean, I know I do. So you don't have time to go all the way down to the lunchroom and then come back. You're bringing it back to class anyway. At least like 90% of the kids I see bring it back. But when you had it in the T hallway, you were getting like I can't give a percentage, but a large amount of percent. Every single kid that I would see would have a lunch or a breakfast because it was just convenient and it was right there and they wanted it. They just didn't have the time or ability. So if you're saying we have to have this breakfast for this program, but we're losing money on it because kids aren't getting it, I really just think that's accessibility.
Thank you.
That's my only concern is the distraction portion.
It's not.
Well, it is. The part of I guess the funding of it or whatever, and the fact that this year it looks like you're gonna be a little bit better off. You said 80%?
We'll get more free rate reimbursement going into next year.
I'm not entirely opposed to that. Classroom is not, I just don't see why is it so important that we have to allow children to eat in the classroom? I don't even say that it's not, but anything besides the classroom work is a distraction. That's why we don't allow cell phones in the classroom. That's why we don't allow these things, because it's a distraction. Anything that takes away from your education or dealing with the teacher and what's going on. Now, if it was something to where, like she had kind of just explained, where it was more of like club meetings or something like that after, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't be entirely too against it, but how can you guarantee that? I don't really know how that would work out schedule-wise.
And at the elementary level versus the secondary level, it functions very differently. If we, I think looking at implementing something like a grab and go or the breakfast, the grab and go or the second chance breakfast is much easier at the secondary levels. There are more challenges at the elementary that we would have to work through and considerations, because of timing and schedule and all of that. We would need to work as a team to explore options there. But when we talk to in the superintendent's meeting recently, the superintendent from Two Rivers flat out said that she's not heard any concerns about distraction to learning. And that's what they've had from the second chance breakfast. That's been their experience. So a lot of it is how you structure it. In some districts, if you're a part of CEP, you have breakfast in the classroom, and that's a hard and fast at every school. But the other thing to think about financially, we've taken a loss on Fund 50 for not offering the breakfast in the classroom, but we also had a projected $30,000 to $40,000 additional investment out of Fund 10 because we had a staff people to supervise in the gyms. And so we're doing that daily right now, where that was a cost that we didn't have before. And so that's over. If you want to look at the full financial picture, when you look at Fund 50, you're not capturing the full scope of the impact of the finances on that. So, and we have students that need assistance eating in some cases, and that presents another challenge. So it's complicated.
I want to say, first of all, that I'm glad that you mentioned what's going on in Two Rivers and the fact that they are not running the program at a loss. I don't believe there's such a thing as a bad place to get a good idea. So if they've been successful with it, I fully trust our administrative team to be looking at how we can implement this while maintaining orderly schools that are focused on learning during the learning day. I trust that they will find the best way to make that work, and they'll be working with building administration to be successful. And I also believe that you've seen strong community support for this, so I'll be supporting it. I promise I'll get you, sir, right after.
Yeah, so my thing was just like I can't speak for lunch times at the middle or the elementary schools, but our C lunch at Lincoln is at 1:30, which it starts at 1:30, so there's a long time in there where kids aren't eating, and kids get hangry, they're teenagers, I would honestly argue that some of those kids that do have that later lunch, having them not eat anything and get agitated is more disruptful than not. But I do like what you said about planning out the times. We do it during our WIN period. I know when I was in elementary school, at least, we wouldn't have a full breakfast, but we had a milk and a snack, and you would do it right in between morning announcements and read aloud time. I'm not sure what, obviously it's been a while since I've been in elementary school, but.
Yeah, it's all a scheduling thing, and I totally agree with you. I just want to make sure that it's not disrupting the educational process. That's why, in my opinion, I apologize, I stepped in.
No, that's okay.
Okay, I apologize.
You were following up on the current thought.
In my opinion, I think there is a good place, a bad place to get a good idea. I'm not trying to knock anything either, but we've all been talking about scores and everything lately, but Two Rivers has been consistently behind us. So I really am not going to go there for an educational advice. So, but I really want to make sure that if that's what we're voting for and it goes through, I trust in the administration, I really do. I want to make sure that it's not a distraction in the classrooms, period. I'm still going to school myself, and bringing in food or anything like that is a distraction. I don't. Sometimes other students will, and it's even a distraction to me, because now all right, man, can you keep the chips down? I'm trying to listen to what this is going on, so either way, I just want to make sure that they're learning. So that's all.
I think we're gonna have kids bringing in food no matter what we do either way. I know there's lots of reasons, but I have type 1 diabetes, so I have to have snacks sometimes so that I can maintain my blood sugar. So there's also how do you root out the things that are like that versus just people wanting to eat?
Hold on, Mr. Phipps has been waiting very patiently.
Yes, he has, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President Abel, for your comments about the administration and about the process. My biggest concern is that we have working staff and food service morale very high and student morale very high. And when there's dumpsters and dumpsters of food being thrown away, when people are working their butts off processing the food, preparing it, and then it gets thrown in the garbage to meet the needs of a federal program. That's my concern, that it just creates a system that just advocates for waste. I would like every student to have a meal when they're hungry, if there's one available. And I think that we've solved that issue. I just think that participation, where do we draw the line between feeding them, holding them, sheltering them, and then educating them? I think it's the parents' job to do that, except I think the education needs to be left to the schools. When are we gonna start talking about housing for our students?
Mr. Shaw, and then.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I wanted to just branch out because I think that's also another concern, and we talked about that. Now, Elena, to be honest, and when we were having this issue, when we kind of pulled out of the program and went back into it, there was a lot of talk about people throwing things in the garbage, and specifically at Lincoln High School. I've also had staff members tell me as well that there's a lot, like all the apples, all the, we were talking about ideas of what we could do with the fruit, but then there's regulations about food and cleanliness as to what you can do and who you can donate it to and all this other garbage. But to be honest with you, it seemed like a lot of waste of food. As honest and whether it's going to help the situation or not, was there a lot of waste of food?
I would say that the fruit is wasted. I would agree with that because no offense to anybody, but the fruit that they provide us, you have to take, if you take a lunch, like a PB, like you can get a peanut butter and jelly and a goldfish and like a cheese, you can grab one of those. And if you take that, you have to take a fruit as well, or they won't let you check out. But a lot of these fruits don't look very appetizing. So a lot of times they do get thrown away. That's just the problem with if kids want to take them, then they'll eat them. But these kids, you have to take them for whatever regulation Chartwells has to follow. I'm not sure on what that is. But that's just why. I know our Green Club was talking about doing some sort of like compost type thing maybe in the future. I'm not in Green Club, so I don't know.
Yeah, they talked about donating things like that too. I was talking with the maintenance guy over at Washington. They just.
There are a lot of regulations behind that, and actually I've been working with a teacher over at Lincoln and Michael Hoffman regarding you have to develop standard operating procedures, and we'd like to do that and test it out at Lincoln. At this point, it'll be next year. There are a lot of rules behind it, but we want to make sure as a district we're set up that if a school really wants to explore that they can. I very briefly wanted to mention that as far as there are some plans that we have too, just knowing what the feedback is that Matt had shared and that we've also heard through our own streams about ways that we can engage the students more and looking at different menu items and to try to reduce waste. Chartwells does a very intentional job of reducing waste as much as they are able to. There are the claiming requirements that we can't really get around, but that also provides the program, and once it's checked out by the students, there's only so much that can be done that's not the food service wasting it. It's there's going to be a natural amount of waste, and we can work to like increase the engagement in what we offer, and that's definitely could help a little bit.
I get you.
Yeah. For 6 months, I saw there's waste. I'm not going to lie that, but the kids are creative and they know what they're doing. If they go through the one line bar, which they have to take the Chartwell certified meal, those line servers, if a kid goes through and says, they give them what they have to, but that they can turn around and the example with the apples. I've seen kids go around the tables and they collect the apples because they love the apples. So they'll walk around and they collect. They may eat all apples because they gave their soft taco to somebody else because they didn't want the soft taco. So they learn the creativity of how to work that line. And in the middle of that lunchroom, there's a full buffet of fruits and vegetables and snacks, healthy snacks, that if you choose not to get your prescribed meal, you can go to this middle section and load up all you want. I've seen kids load their whole tray with fruit cocktail and apples, fruit cocktail and bananas. And they'll take 3 bananas and give them to their buddy because they want their scoop of mashed potatoes and gravy. They get creative, but yet there is waste. There is waste. There is waste. And again, I think the middle school, and the directors can answer this, but I think the middle school schedule for next year is offering a time in the morning for like a homeroom period where they meet and they sell that. I think you guys have a better handle on that. But I think that's in the works for next year, so that would help alleviate that instruction time.
Mr. Hans.
So if the leadership team would come up with some ideas on how to do this, we can still implement it even if we approve this tonight, correct? That
Yeah.
more effective breakfast program?
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
definitely
so
work
can I
on-
just make that a friendly amendment to my motion to approve this?
I'll second.
That our leadership team will look at it and see if we can come up with a way to get better participation.
And you had, didn't the original second?
Yeah. No, I didn't have the original second.
Who had the,
I don't know.
Her motion, I believe you seconded it, right?
You,
I made the motion to approve the CEP program for the 23.
oh, so you're on that
Second, so can I friendly amendment?
Sure. Okay, all right. All right, so we have.
What's the wording?
yeah, can I repeat that, please, Beth?
I just want, the friendly amendment would be that the leadership team would look at ways that we can enhance the program to help kids get food in the morning. See if there's a way to
Right,
get
in a non-
more participation so we don't lose.
All right.
It's not gonna cost us anything. They're the experts in buildings, and talk to the principals and find out,
One more
get
thing.
it done.
Yes,
Can you second the
Well,
friendly?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I would second it with an additional amendment to say just without losing educational instruction time.
I'm assuming they do that, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm assuming.
Also, if there's a lot of the regulations, especially with the fruit and things like that, because you're talking about collecting it, but we can't donate it for human consumption because of,
No, you can. I mean, you just can't any, if you look at.
handle, there's like a lot of regulations around that, isn't it?
Well, and it's just what can be donated to groups, so like,
I just know that we have a lot of,
It takes so much, and then you have to have temperature regulation or adult monitoring, and it can't be, if it's an editable skin, you can't donate it. So like you can donate bananas and stuff, but then we'd have to wrap all the apples, there's
Right.
things.
so apples, you wouldn't be able to. If there's a situation where that comes up, can we look into, because we have a lot of like, I know in the Manitowoc area, we've got like elk farms and alpacas and all that stuff, and they love those. That would be an amazing thing, and even if it was just a little bit of help donating it to them, that'd be cool.
They used to do that specifically in this district, and they would take fruit to the zoo. And the reason they stopped that, it was because DPI put in these additional regulations, because you're taking federally paid for food, and then
Crying out loud.
sometimes students would take stuff and say like, oh, I'm gonna take it just to give it, and then they want the food to be routed for its intended use. So,
It's intended for the garbage.
so
Sucks.
Maybe I'm telling the tale out of school, but I'm not sure this was legal, but we would collect the fruit that kids would want to give away, and we would take it up to the guidance office, and the guidance office would give it to kids on their way home to eat. If they were hungry at the end of the day, so they would walk by the guidance would give them an orange or pear, an apple or banana or whatever it was, and maybe a snack, and send them other way. I don't know if it's legal, so I'm sorry if I'm on the air.
I don't know if it is.
But that's what we did, and so.
and we can't monitor, we monitor and provide the guidance.
didn't monitor, we just did it.
We don't, yeah, no, but we can't, we're not there to police it, all of those pieces.
Yeah, I think that was a good idea. I don't care if it was legal or not.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay. Nay on principle.
So can I see the ayes? Make sure my count's right. Yeah, so that passes 3-2. Thank you. You got everything you need. All right. Moving on to letter E, printing services MSC production machines bid.
We provided some updated information, just following our committee meeting, and this, we weren't able to, take action on it at the committee level. Just recommending that we go with Wisconsin Document Imaging for the MSC production machine contract for the next 5 years. Their lease rate was the lowest of all of the bidders. They provide the same brand of machine, and while that wasn't, that we discussed that a little bit in the committee, just with our implementation of paper cuts and the fact that it was the lowest cost of the actual lease itself, we felt most comfortable in recommending that. When we looked at some of the numbers, especially on the color and black and white machines, there was really only a $500 spread between Wisconsin Document Imaging and RICO. And Wisconsin Document Imaging is local, and they're also already in our district servicing, so we felt that that would be more just beneficial overall because they're already in our district.
I don't think that came out of committee. We had a nice discussion on committee. Wisconsin Imaging is significantly lower than our previous contract. However, it uses the same equipment. The people are all trained under the same staff. There's little turnover. So I don't think we need to go back to committee. I'm going to make a motion that the district go with Wisconsin Imaging for the multi-service production machines for the 24-25 school year, or 24 through 29 school year.
Do we have a second? I will second for more than purposes of discussion. Just make sure that I understand this correctly. With that, also is providing the machines in each of the schools, aren't they?
Correct. So the only ones that are currently under Novatech are the MSD production machines. We went down to one single provider to streamline, get better rates over the last 3 years. And so it's still the rates when they send the printing to the MSC are significantly lower compared to printing in the buildings as well. So we're working to, you see the amounts of the click rates. Our goal, a good problem to have would be that we pay more at the MSC for printing because it means we're paying the lowest amount per click. So.
And I just want to point out that while we're looking at approximately a $500 difference between the RICO and Wistock, to me, the big difference is they're the same machines they've been using all the way along. They've already been trained by Xerox to do much of the work that needs to be done. So rather than waiting for a technician to come, there's a lot they can take care of themselves. It is the preferred machine, I believe, by our printing department, although, bless them, they said, we will work with whatever machine you get us. I think getting in the same machines they've had, for less money is a number.
I'm glad you said that. I mean, I had a concern because it's a bidding process and there's a lower bid. But if we have people that can service the machine, we're not going to be calling somebody to come in.
And we're not required.
We just have to be careful when we have a bidding process, and I would love always to go local too, but sometimes you got to stay with that process. But it sounds like this would be better. It's the same machine. People are trained on it. We're not going to wait. And it can be crazy waiting in a school if you can't print stuff. So I will support this.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing none, that passes unanimously. We now move on
That was the
to,
end of the financial and business report.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We will go to the personnel report.
To approve it. Right, Chris, go ahead.
Oh, sure.
I just, a couple of quick things. First of all, retirements, you'll notice that list is set to a year from now. And I just have to tell you, when I received your email, I thought, oh, I wrote her back, I assume you made a mistake with the year, you're talking 23, 24. She said, nope, next year. So this, that was a first for me.
That's how Mrs. Schultz thinks.
I was
That's
actually
far
going
out
to make
there.
sure that we mention that, because that's really nice that you did that. Plus, 34 years is a long time service. I was 14 years old when she started, and I'm gray now. So that's just, it's really nice, and it shows a lot of responsible planning for her to give us a whole year in advance. So that's very nice.
And the second thing, Kayla Miller, we have down at her location is Lincoln, it's Wilson. So Kayla's down second from the bottom, I believe. Okay, so that's it.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. was
Michael,
looking down.
I have a question on the SFA teacher interventionist. Are those replacing people that are currently working? Those aren't new, are they?
Those are actually, I like to say, technically, we took the dean positions and the FTE and over here, they went into the SFA intervention. Right. Right. So we ended up, if you remember correctly, I think we ended up approving something like 5 positions because we already had a couple positions out there relative to deans that we didn't, remember that at all?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Well, so did Jackson have a SFA teacher interventionist this year? I mean,
No, I don't.
okay.
Geez, I'm drawing a blank. I mean, no.
So the 3 positions?
Right. Yeah, that's right, because remember we had like 3 interventionist positions at the bottom of the page that we're still looking for a long, long time. And we were able to just fill those just recently.
Okay.
If I could follow up on that. So then my understanding was wrong earlier this year when I thought because of our concerns with the implementation of SFA and behavior in the schools and behavior related to making the behavior parts of SFA work more successfully, it was proposed to use some of the savings from this year for deans of students for SFA teacher/interventionalists through the end of the school year. But I did not recall it being something that we would continue in perpetuity. Did I miss something there?
Well, that wasn't my understanding, but I don't know. Can anybody else speak to that at all?
What was the?
I thought those positions,
I thought we were getting SFA interventionalists, SFA teacher/interventionalists to do the second half of this current school year as we were implementing SFA because we recognized the need and it would help us get through this initial implementation. But now these appear to be becoming permanent positions,
Yeah,
which was
that's
not
what
my
it was.
understanding.
I know I'm not saying that you're confused or anything like that, but I do know that they had spoke about having SFA, like actual from SFA coming and helping out for a certain period of time, but the actual position within ours, I believe that was,
Well, these
from what I
are,
understood, it was permanent.
these are in addition to our SFA coordinators, who we have at all buildings.
these
Then I'm the one that's-
positions, to my understanding was we were converting the dean FTE to the SFA teacher/interventionist. For the SFA piece, we were able to break them into a little bit smaller groups, we had another person. And then we had the rest of the day to do interventions relative to student behaviors or whatever needed to be done. So yeah, my understanding, Chris, was that it was not just for the rest of the year. And I'll tell you why I'm pretty confident in my understanding is because to find people for one semester for a position like that would have been pretty challenging. So I thought it was an ongoing situation.
Okay.
I think, yes, that is how we presented it, I believe, and ultimately, when we took the support of the deans from the schools, we have had nothing but concerns about student behaviors continue to be a challenge. Yes, we've noticed that students are doing a better job during the SFA block with their behavior, with the way that they're broken down into smaller groups and stuff, that really helps, but then there's the whole rest of the day. By changing the position to being just a dean of students who supports behavior, and by adding that piece of the ability to teach SFA or sub during SFA, one of the problems that we've had all year has been we have teachers, if they call in sick and there isn't a sub, there's no one to teach that So by having that extra person during the SFA time to either teach or sub, but we continue to have behaviors that are getting in the way of student learning within classrooms, keeping principals in a position where they're chasing kids more than they're getting in to give feedback to teachers. So another problem area that we have is we don't have math interventionists. We have done some work to get some additional reading interventionists, but we still haven't had those math interventions and supports that we need. So this person kind of has a lot of hats to wear. We don't want them just carrying a walkie-talkie and you know, doing that. We want them to be doing some interventions as well.
Since I'm the one who stuck his finger in this pie, let me just finish out by saying what I know is not a popular opinion. Gee whiz, okay? I understand why people want deans of students. I understand why people want interventionals. The cold, hard, indisputable truth is the functional, sane learning environment in a school begins and ends with the principal. The buck stops there. That is the person you have to count on to ensure that you have a productive learning environment for all students. So, in my opinion, we have the people there to do this, and that will remain my view. I believe, Mr. Hanson, you were waiting.
Well, so this person helps with SFA, does some reading in the afternoons or at another time. Do they also do behavior interventions?
Yes.
So to say, so in a sense, they really are still a dean and a student.
I think there's a component to the job that's similar, but like in the past, our dean of students really dealt with attendance and they dealt with behaviors all day. They didn't do interventions. And if they were,
My concern was my understanding, when we voted for those positions, that they needed that behavior help. And I just want to make sure they're getting that. And it's just not becoming another person in the building teaching SFA, teaching reading, and they're not getting that other support they need, you know, in those situations.
I think that in a perfect world, it's all of the things. And so SFA is 90 minutes in the morning and there's the whole rest of the day. And our principals would all say that they have seen a decline or almost an elimination of behaviors during the SFA block. Not 100%, it's not probably ever going to be 100%. But so that part of the day, we don't want to say, you're just going to deal with behaviors because the behaviors don't exist. So we want to use that human resource the best that we can. So by having them available to teach or sub during SFA is also a good thing. But the behavior support is there. Ultimately, I think what we all want to see is Katie has done a lot of work to get things set up with supports from CISA and with other people that are coming in. We need to work on that sort of tier 1 behavior situation that we have. And that's where we're going to really be focusing a lot of our energy. So hopefully over time, you know, I was a principal I'm almost done. I was a principal before COVID and I would have never dreamed that we needed a dean. I never needed a dean. I was in one of the bigger schools and things went well. But I will say that my years after COVID, things are different. Kids are a little bit different. Things are different. So we have to meet the needs of the kids that we have today.
Great discussion, Mr. President. I think your points are very valid, and I happen to agree with you 100%. Buck does stop the principal. Thank you, Heidi, for your comments as well. I think it's pertinent that we are matching our resources to what we're asking, and we're not just giving one job description. It's a diverse position that can encompass many needs throughout the district. So I think that's useful explanation. Great discussion, Biff. Thank you. Just wanted to say that to you, please.
Yeah. Anything more? Okay, I just want to make sure you're all okay, because I discussed this with Mr. Nault. And it's clearly demarcated on here that one of the employees will be granted a license with stipulation.
Yep.
It's not an unusual thing, but when you vote to approve, you are voting to approve that I sign off on that as board president for us to grant that license with stipulation. Just, and those will always be on there so that you can see it, but just so that you understand why that's on there is to let you know you're approving me to do that, so that I like to be sure that you are asking me to do that.
CYA, I got you.
Okay, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Mr. Knoll, could you make the correction, what you said about the location of the school? Can somebody make?
It's a technical
Okay,
correction,
sounds
yeah.
good.
Okay. Link into.
Yeah.
Awesome hires.
And we have two LWS ones in this particular personnel report. I think they're the first two of this hiring season. But we probably have, just to give you some information, 10 or 12 total in the district. And they're fully licensed by DPI. The stipulation is that they're working toward their DPI licenses certification.
Right.
Right.
Right, absolutely. And you keep a close eye on it, and I know they're working, so
We try.
we appreciate that. Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying nay. Nay. So that passes 4-1.
Can I just confirm who made the motion and the second on that?
You made the motion?
Yes, I did, actually. It was quiet. I didn't think anybody.
Who was the second?
I think I was.
It was the second with discussion.
I was. with-
Maybe.
I did it, yes, I did it. because I needed it.
Can the minutes reflect Mr. Hanson seconded maybe? No, not appropriate? Okay.
I second.
Might have seconded it.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last thing under personnel is proposed new position, 0.5 FTE social worker at Riverview Elementary.
Yes, proposing a 0.5 social worker at Riverview Early Learning. And as you can see, the numbers there, 284 students currently over at the Early Childhood Center. And you can see Monroe and Madison, the 284 exceeds those numbers, and they have a full-time counselor. In addition, when you look at Riverview, the total numbers at Riverview are 582 right now. So that's a pretty good sized population. And that exceeds Washington, which is at 508, and that exceeds Wilson, which is at 466. So the bottom line is that we need more support out there. And by hiring a social worker, as you can see, we get 50% reimbursement. What's the cost of that 0.5? Half of what it is. And if you really want to look at the big picture of the cost, that social worker being full-time 0.5 at Jefferson and 0.5 there, that full-time job is usually projected at 100,000. Well, if we get reimbursement for 50,000, that basically pays for that position in totality for next year. So, yeah.
So do we have a motion? We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. You see listed on the agenda the impending meetings of the Personnel and Policy Committee, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee, and the regular board meeting. That's all I have for that. I will now read the following. The Board of Education will vote to convene a closed session for the purpose of considering the following matter. Considering the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. This meeting is authorized pursuant to section 19.185, parent 1, parent C of the Wisconsin State Statutes. The specific subject matter is A, superintendent summative performance review evaluation and process discussion. We would be looking to move into closed session 5 minutes after the motion is moved, seconded, and approved.
I make a motion to maybe, I don't know if this is considered a.
I mean, 5 minutes.
I just wanted to make a statement.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can have a point of privilege, certainly.
Okay, I'm gonna be voting no to convene in closed session. We have two board members absent right now, and one of them specifically asked and stated that they really wanted to participate in this discussion. It's very important. And asked if we could table it to the general meeting at the beginning of June. With a fraction of our board here, I would just like to implore every one of you guys to just not go into closed session for the purposes of this, just so we all can have a voice on here, Terry and Tony. That's my statement.
Understood. Okay, so did we get a motion to go into close?
We got a motion from Keith.
Second.
And a second from Mr. Hanson, okay. So all those, oh, we have to do a roll call vote, I believe?
Christopher Abel,
Aye.
Biff Hansen.
Aye.
Matthew Phipps,
Nay.
Keith Shaw,
Aye.
Matthew Spalding,
Nay.
Okay, and 3-2, we will be in closed in 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone.